of them stick around. That's probably enough for Ubisoft, and there's a decent chance that that transfers over into buying more money for DLC, and also the word of mouth. If you've got 3 friends that are on Game Pass playing For Honor, and you're the 4th or 5th friend and you don't have Game Pass, there's a decent chance you'll get the FOMO and just buy the game outright, which works in Ubisoft's favor too. So a lot of smart decisions being made by putting that there, and hopefully the new content is like exciting. But either way, I feel like I'm gonna download it once it gets to Game Pass and see what's up, and probably bounce off, because there's some killers in there that have been playing for 5 years and will just mop the floor with you non-stop.
That's my experience in every Ubisoft multiplayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say. But then again, I've seen you play Sekiro and Bloodborne, so I think you've probably got the reaction time for it. I do not.
Hell yeah.
Let's kind of breeze past what else we can expect from the Ubisoft pre-show. So updates on Trackmania, The Crew 2, Brawlhalla. So they're announcing a brand new crossover for Brawlhalla. They just had Kung Fu Panda. But interestingly, Watch Dogs Legion is gonna be there. So Assassin's Creed updates are kind of in the main show, but Watch Dogs Legion, which just had a kind of fairly significant update. Obviously, they added the multiplayer mode. They're adding in a kind of zombies mode where you can either play by yourself or with friends. It's called Legion of the Dead. And then they have other kind of exciting stuff coming down the pipeline for August. They're adding like invasion mode and extraction PvP modes. And then there is going to be kind of story DLC later down the line, Bloodline story DLC, as well as the opportunity to have like Aiden Pierce in your game and Wrench from Watch Dogs 2. Despite, loving London, having lived there for a long time, I did bounce off Watch Dogs Legion quite quickly. I just didn't really... I didn't kind of enjoy bouncing from one character to another. I kind of prefer to have a protagonist. Phil, did you enjoy Watch Dogs Legion? Are you kind of surprised to see it at this placement in Ubisoft Showcase today?
I mean, a little bit. It does kind of feel like Watch Dogs is settling into a sort of niche. Having played that multiplayer, it feels like a very specific draw, and I think that might be why Watch Dogs is falling into this spot in the pre-show as well. Like, it's not necessarily bringing in, huge droves of players, but the people who are into it are really into it, and I could see them really getting into that zombie mode. I want to check that out. Having played the multiplayer a little bit, it gets tough. It is very difficult. You really need to have a squad who knows what they're doing and is willing to goof off, but also really willing to coordinate if you want to get anything done. And zombies mode probably looks like, to me, it's going to be kind of that same level of like, yeah, this is funny for a minute. You can ride on the cars and stuff, but now we need to get serious. And, you need pals for that, right? So like, this isn't maybe going to blow the doors off for Ubisoft in general, but there are people who are really into that experience. And, having friends who want to get into it and have run it a couple times, yeah, it's pretty good. So I'm into the zombies idea, and I think that is a niche that doesn't always necessarily get served, of having that like really intense, goofy open world experience, but needing that squad. And so I think that could be a cool thing for them to kind of lean into.
I'm going to move us along because the actual showcase that Ubisoft is promising is already pretty packed. So let's kick off with Rainbow Six Extraction, formerly Rainbow Six Quarantine. I think my favorite thing about that was that the name, the kind of rebrand of the name, had actually just been outed a long time ago and just no one sort of realized. Tam, what are your predictions? We know we're going to see gameplay, more trailers. Are you excited for Extraction? So I know you play a lot of Siege.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Extraction. We talked about this previously in another stream. I don't remember what stream it was or when it was, because time is a flat circle and confusing now. But Siege fundamentally is a really sharp shooter and it's satisfying, and it's like the core mechanics of it are fantastic. So the tricky thing for it is it's really hard to get into it. The learning curve is steep, and people on there are not forgiving of newcomers at all. And you generally have to find new people that you kind of jump into with alongside, or you find people that you trust to kind of guide you, and that's a tricky thing to do. However, the idea of taking those same core mechanics and spinning it into a cooperative game where it's you versus AI enemies, that is incredibly like compelling to me. I love playing Siege. I love the idea of playing Extraction with people who always have liked the idea of Siege, but perhaps aren't up for getting through the hard graft of learning it, and then, or perhaps like aren't into the idea of getting killed immediately and then sitting the rest of the round out because you can't play. But playing an Extraction where always in it, still playing with friends, and then maybe thinking about moving over to Siege because you found a familiarity and a groove and a kind of a understanding of how the core mechanics work. That's super exciting. I think this is going to be, I hope this is going to be a big chunk of the Ubisoft Forward. I'd love to see them break down mechanical stuff and break down, this is how the destruction is going to factor into this game where you're fighting zombies or infected or whatever it may be. Here's how the operators are going to behave and how they might be familiar or different, and ultimately, most importantly, here's how the cooperative part of it is going to work and how it's going to be fun for you instead of like a very straight-laced army versus zombies game. So I hope we get to see plenty of this game. It's one of the games I'm most excited for in this showcase.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned, just one giant subtweet to me, as I am the person who is usually always dead. And I am the person who did give up when we briefly, as a group, decided to play Rainbow Six Siege because I would just die and get annoyed, because obviously you can't just like immediately respawn. You can still help. But I'm very interested to see what the loop is going to be for Extraction, because it's a team game. I want to be that person who is contributing more and not just the person who is swearing a lot over mic because they immediately died. But another game that we're definitely going to see a lot of today is Far Cry 6. So it recently had a sort of behind closed doors presentation where they showed off some new gameplay mechanics. Obviously, Giancarlo Esposito was at the Summer Game Fest the other day. What more can we see of this game today? I don't mean for that to sound mean, but it just seems very weird to have an embargo where you show off so much of the game and then kind of have another thing just, literally like a week or two after. So Phil, what are you expecting to see today?
I'm hoping that we'll get a little bit of a better sense of like this, what seems like they're crafting going on with like the building weapons and cobbling them out of weird stuff around the island. I'm not really a big fan of crafting in Far Cry in general. It usually feels like, hunt down 9 boars and then make a wallet. And like, that's just not something I really enjoy. But this seems like much more of a creative kind of approach, at least from what I gathered from the trailers and the other coverage and stuff. So I'm hoping that is true, and that we can like learn how we're going to actually be kind of leading into pulling stuff out of the world and actually making cool stuff out of it, and not just like ticking off a list for crafting, which is what it's been like for the last few games. Also, I would just like to hear more about Yara in general and sort of where the story is going. Giancarlo Esposito had that interview with Jeff Keighley, and he said some interesting stuff about his character, and I'm interested in that. And, there was this recent discussion of whether or not this game is going to be political, quote unquote political. And it's like, that's a weird, already a very loaded discussion, obviously. But what I do want to hear about is sort of like the viewpoint of the game and what kind of world it's building, and there's interesting stuff there. It sounds like Giancarlo has an interesting perspective on this whole idea. So that's what I'm interested in. Is the storytelling of Far Cry is always it has its nuances and it has its interesting directions and stuff, and I want to see more of that. So I'd be down for anything that's going to be kind of like giving us a sense of where we are in this world, what this world's going to be like, and the nuances of the characters involved. And it's not just like, oh, yeah, there's the bad guy, let's go shoot him. I want to hear about, you know, his take on the character and how that fits into the larger experience of the game.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the son character. I know there was a lot of speculation when Far Cry 6 was revealed that could be Voss, like a young Voss. But I think I mean, I don't think it is, but he is. But I think just his positioning, where you have his father, who is this dictator, who doesn't see himself as a dictator, and then you have the freedom fighters who are trying to, you know, free Yara from this dictatorship, and then they're kind of leaning into the propaganda side of it as well, a lot in their marketing. And so I'm very intrigued to see how things unravel. But I will say, and you brought this up yourself, where it became, you know, just checklist. And I know that is classic Ubisoft game design, towers, checklists. And I think, I mean, if you go back to Far Cry 3, which I think pretty much had the balance just right, and then you go to something like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is a game that just doesn't end. And obviously it has a ton of content, but it also has a lot of bloat. And I found that with the last two Far Crys, not including like Primal or New Dawn, but, you know, like Far Cry just didn't have I don't know, it just wasn't as tight as an experience, and it just provided me with so many options just to drop off because I couldn't be bothered to liberate another thing or climb another tower. So I'm interested to see how they're kind of dealing with that in terms of the gameplay itself. Tam, anything on Far Cry?
Yeah, I think I mean, like, both of what you've said there is on point. Like, after the Wildlands release, which performed incredibly underwhelmingly, Ubisoft had they had their financial report, and one of the main things they cited was the game didn't differentiate itself in any meaningful way. It kind of just got lost. And that's not only a problem that Ubisoft has when it comes to its own games versus other people's games, other companies' games. It's a problem that Ubisoft has when it comes to its own games versus its own games. They're all kind of blending into one thing right now. And that has been the case with Assassins, that has been the case with Far Cry, and definitely is the case with all their Ghost Recon games. So with that in mind, yes, everything I've seen so far of Far Cry, it's given me nothing to be excited about. So what I'm looking forward to is, as what Phil says, like, what is the narrative? Is it going to say something? Because if it's got nothing to say and it's the same game with more crafting, I'm not sure I can get hype about that. And like you were saying, the loop needs to be meaningfully different this time around, because we've played multiple Far Cry games to this point, and if I really want that same experience again, I can pick any number of games that are out there that offer me something different instead of the same Far Cry flavor. The crafting stuff seems cool, seems interesting. It's not enough for me. I'm at the stage in my gaming career and life where I need something meaningful to happen in these games instead of being like the same thing over and over and over again. So I don't know. I hope that they show off something cool, something different. I do wonder whether they're going to try and do the thing where they show off that one mission that everyone talks about, burning the marijuana field or whatever it may be for this one, and kind of create some buzz that way. But I don't know. I need something to kind of shock me out the malaise around Far Cry right now, because so far there's not a lot to get super excited for me.
I almost thought you were setting yourself up for a definition of insanity thing there, because you said same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
But you know, that in itself says a lot. That the defining Far Cry stuff that you think about, the burning the marijuana fields, the definition of insanity, like Voss as a character, that was all Far Cry 3, which, you know, we've collectively moved past, but, you know, still kind of trying to reach those highs. Let's move on, because we don't have very long before we're going to pass over to the ESA official opening stream. We know we're going to get updates on Riders Republic, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There's going to be a kind of Ubisoft film and TV section. Obviously, we'll understand more about the upcoming stuff from Mythic Quest, which I started watching recently, and I am genuinely very much enjoying Mythic Quest. I think it's very funny. And as well, Werewolves Within, which is coming to VOD on July 2nd, based on the VR game Werewolves Within, which in itself, I think, is that based on the board game Werewolves? Or is that just, like a spin-off? But either way, there is a kind of game night-esque movie coming out for Werewolves Within. So let's spend the last few minutes before we hand over discussing potential surprises. So obviously we've had Rabbids and Rocksmith, but there are still a lot of things that Ubisoft has that either we know that they're working on or that we hope that they're working on. My big loaded question, Phil, is today the day? Do we see more Beyond Good and Evil 2?
It feels like that might be where Ubisoft is headed. I feel like they like to hold these little Beyond Good and Evil trailers like in reserve and then just bounce them on people. And didn't that happen 2 years ago at E3 as well? Like where nobody expected it and all of a sudden we were just hit with all this gameplay and stuff.
Was that the Joseph Gordon-Levitt year? I want to say.
Maybe.
Right. I forgot.
Which was just like, I remember Eddie from our news team, I think it was Eddie, went to the Beyond Good and Evil presentation and he was like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's here. I don't understand why. So, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. So, like, I would not be surprised. It would be unsurprising if that was the surprise. It almost seems like a thing that has to happen at some point.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, when I was kind of putting together our run of show, I went to Ubisoft's website because, Ubisoft News usually has a pretty up-to-date kind of list of stuff. And the Beyond Good and Evil 2 stuff was pretty highly placed, prominent position on the website. So maybe. I just don't see how it's a Beyond Good and Evil game. That's my gripe. But I'm intrigued. I just want to see more of it. Tam, I'm going to come to you now. Avatar.
Not the last
Airbender. No.
Oh.
They're working. I think it's Massive. Are working on an Avatar game. Do you think it's too soon? Because I don't think we know when the movie is coming. I think they have been filming it. I want to say, but I'm not sure if it's too soon to see anything from the game.
I think it's probably too soon to see something substantial from it, but I think that Ubisoft will want to remind people that they are making an Avatar game based on James Cameron's 37 movie series that people apparently really care about, that I don't understand, but fair enough. But I reckon we get like a logo and maybe like a blue alien looking into the camera and saying, I am the Avatar. I don't know what that movie's about. I've not seen it. I don't know.
Wait, have you not seen Avatar?
No, because I watched the trailer and I went,
what?
This looks like top 10 ass and I will not be watching it. And I just have not watched it. And then it came out and everyone went, yeah, it's got 3D. I was like, but what's the movie like? And they were like, it's got 3D.
Yeah, admittedly, I couldn't tell you anything really that was about.
I know the meme.
But I remember seeing it. It was a moment.
Yeah, what is it, Jake Sully or something like that?
I see you, Jake Sully.
I see you, Jake Sully, yeah.
Was it unobtainium? Was what they were going for or something? I can't remember. It was something like that. But regardless, so we know Avatar is in the works at Massive. They also have a Star Wars project. The kind of EA Star Wars license has sort of lapsed, and while EA is still working on Star Wars games, now Ubisoft is kind of having a go. Phil, do you think we're going to see even a hint of a tease?
I hope so. We have almost no information about that at all, so I would really love to hear just a little bit about what Ubisoft is attempting to do with that whole idea. We know it's narrative, we know it's open world. That's about it. And this is the team that was working on The Division, so I'm really interested in what that translates to for Star Wars. I think we really need to kind of go off into some different directions with Star Wars in general and get creative with it. And I'm hoping that that's what we're going to see from Ubisoft, some new ideas in this whole galaxy.
I was going to say, I mean, The Mandalorian, at least I know it's kind of the most recent Star Wars in memory, but it's that does set itself up to be a game pretty well. That game was essentially just fetch quests all over the place.
Right.
We're going to start to wrap it up now. We're going to throw over to the official EA stream, ESA stream. look, there's ESA, E3, EA. I was gonna mess it up, and of course I have to mess it up on day one. We're gonna throw it over to the official ESA stream to kick off E3 2021. So we've got Greg Miller, Golden Boy, and Jackie Jing. Then we're gonna go to the Ubisoft pre-show, then Ubisoft Forward, and then back here for all our reactions. So don't go anywhere. We'll catch you soon.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to E3 Live from an undisclosed location in Los Angeles, California. E3 is back after a one-year hiatus. I am Greg Miller, one of your 3 hosts this week, and I, of course, am joined by one of my other hosts, Jackie Jing. Hello, Jackie.
Hi. Oh my gosh, it's happening.
Can you believe we're here?
Yeah, we don't. Give me a hug, you.
No, exactly. Get out of here, masks. No one needs you anymore, except for when I leave the set. When we leave the stage, we have to